As I'm sure many of you are aware, in 2013, Fighting is Magic, or the main six who were producing it at the time and making it into a fully developed game, received a cease and desist letter by Hasbro's lawyers, instructing them to stop producing their game. This was partly due to Hasbro wanting to take control of its own intellectual property, and also due to its massive rise in popularity during this time.
Try me, bitch.
People often wonder why Hasbro chose to do this decision, and some people say that it's due to the fact that the game, and most of the game itself, was originally developed by Hasbro. However, the same thing can't be said about Button Mash, which was created by one person, entirely by his own, not using any of the show's assets, only using Sweetie Belle, a character or an intellectual title of Hasbro, as one of its persons. So I guess it's up to you to determine whether Hasbro is protecting their ideas or their assets. However, the main six were still determined to make a good fighting game, so they decided to go third party and make their own. They couldn't release their new game as it would take time, money and energy and effort that they didn't have because they produced their original game for free. So they turned to crowdfunding, specifically Indiegogo. This new game based on the original was going to have new characters, a new story, and new worlds that we could explore and fight in for real on multiplayer online servers. And not just that, but Lauren Faust herself was going to be involved in it. She'd also make the new characters in a new world.
Hello, we're Main 6. We're an indie game development team working on our debut title, Them's Fightin Herds, a 2D fighting game with cute, adorable, four-legged animals. A few years ago, we were developing the fan game Fighting is Magic, which featured the cartoon ponies from My Little Pony beating each other up. Unfortunately, because of reasons, before the game could be completed or released to the public, we had to shut it down immediately, or else. But did that stop us? Yep, of course it did. But not for long. Lauren Faust, who developed and produced the original My Little Pony Friendship is Magic television series, was following our game and heard about our situation. She offered to join our team and help create a new world with new characters
The concept of new can be rather difficult nowadays with the constant reboots that keep happening, but to say that this game was new is a bit of a lie. Since all the characters' traits, personalities, and moves are stolen from the original game, it's really difficult to say that this is a new game. I mean, it's a new game in the sense that it's new, but in the sense of creating new characters, it's not really new characters. I'll demonstrate that here. For example, Paprika, who is clearly a rendition of Pinkie Pie, when going over her story, it is written as such. When she is confronted with going to the championships, which is generally the overarching story, is that all these characters have come together, this is the quote about what is said to her. Suddenly, the whole lot of them just showed up on the capital of High Plains, pushing, no shoving their champion forward, with uncharacteristic fever, enthusiasm, before running away, singing with glee. This use of using characters from the original game or show is used throughout all of the characters, and every single one of them shares significant traits with their MLP counterparts. I'm forced to ask myself if Lauren did this because she wanted to have the characters as close to that of the original, so the characters could continue and be similar to that in the original game, or if she did it mainly because she didn't have time or she didn't want to commit that much to creating new and interesting characters and a new and interesting world. But Clem, there is a new and interesting world with new characters. Why yes, all means, if your idea of new and interesting characters is renaming them and recoloring them, and your idea of a new and interesting story is straight out of Crash Nitro Kart. Even worse than stealing characters and traits from the original show, I'm more angry about the fact that they stole gameplay moves from their original game. I mean, come on guys, we put so much money to this and you absolutely had enough creativity and interest to make a new character moves and new and interesting ways of moving in the game, but there isn't. It's the same, and what isn't the same is clunky controls. It's much more difficult to move your character across the screen, and your character takes up a significantly larger portion of the screen, making it impossible to see anything but the environment. Here, let me show you again. For starters, in the original game, characters were significantly smaller, taking up only about 5% of the total screen area, whereas if you look at the current game, you can see the characters are significantly bigger, taking up roughly 10% of the screen. That's double the size of the characters. That might not sound like a whole lot to you, but trust me, you significantly notice it while playing. To me, this decision is awfully weird, and here's an example of me doing it to Mortal Kombat. I wonder why they decided to increase the size of their characters, as one of my favourite things to do in this game is play laterally by hitting the enemy in the air and seeing how many attacks you can get in before they hit the ground, but now by taking away a significant portion of the screen, it makes it a lot harder to do these attacks and to continue to hitting your opponent. For those of you wondering if the AI is just as broken / difficult as the original game, you'll be glad to know that it absolutely is. So I'd like to conclude with my rewards and punishments for this game. And so, it's reward time. Number 1. You actually made it. Not a lot of people were expecting this game to come out, or even for any idea of it to come out, and yet it did, so I do implore the fact that they followed through and completed this game. Fantastic art. This game has fantastic art. Its backgrounds and its characters look absolutely beautiful, and they perfectly blend together. And finally, nostalgia. This game makes me nostalgic for Fighting is Magic, and that certainly gives it a point. I know I shouldn't give it a point for that, but remembering the old days does in fact get a point from me. And on to punishments. First off, it's clunky as hell. When compared to the original game, the jumping and moving mechanics are just not what they used to be. It feels like controlling a stick on a rotor. Secondly, and counter to nostalgia, it's completely unoriginal. I can't forgive the fact that the character's story and overall thing are basically the exact same as the original game. It seems very uninspired, and they could have done a lot more to make this one individual game. And lastly, the game fucking crashed again.